It's Monday, August 5th, 2019, and this is the Pro and the Con Show, and I'm your host, Michael James Ott. Welcome to the show, 15 to 20 minutes, almost every day, pretty much every day, trying to get us to be open to at least listening to opposing views, understanding the facts behind what you say and what I say, and I believe. My experience says that if we do that, we'll end up, healing the great divide that really, for the most part, our political parties and the surrogates and so on that, drive them, are driving us apart, driving the wedge between us. So normally I would go in and do, or fairly often I go in and I look at the different websites for different, these 5 different streams of information. Some of them are biased more liberally, some of them more conservative, and if you will, just accept those characterizations. But today's show, I'd really love to talk about racism and segregation. And they're difficult topics. And again, as in all these topics, we cannot possibly do them justice in seconds, minutes. They really would take many hours or even some days of talking about or listening to various experts with specific knowledge from various viewpoints on these topics. But I want to try to hit them in a short 10 or 15 minute discussion here. So I went to the Civil Rights Museum it was a few years ago, and it's a great museum, and I strongly recommend it. If you're ever in that area, go see it. It's fantastic. And of course, a big part of the Civil Rights Museum is a discussion of racism and also a discussion about segregation. A big part of that discussion about segregation is actually the legal or structured segregation that was forced upon African Americans in the South of this country, all the way through the 60s. And was forced upon them in other places as well, but primarily in the South of this country. And what surprised me was that, and again, the museum does a great job of pointing this out. What surprised me was that after the laws ended and, busing was in place and there was an emphasis on ending segregation, that segregation continued, and it wasn't. It continued, kind of voluntarily, if you would. I don't think that that's the right term. By happenstance, by familiarity, and so they have these maps, and I'm going to show you an example from Seattle here in a moment, because I've got an excellent article for us to look at. But I don't know, and I'm not going to begin to say that I know all the factors here. But part of it is I think there's a familiarity and also a certain lack or ignorance of what other things could be done, what other places that you could go. You know what you know. This is very, for Americans, this is what, you know what you know. And so, this ignorance is a precursor both for racism and for segregation, really. So the ignorance of not knowing, if you look at some of the most racist areas in the country, these are areas that have very little diversity in them for the most part. And what happens is, because there isn't a routine exchange of encounters between various people of different races and stuff like that, then people that are, separated and not sharing regular time with other people can, start getting, unfortunately, this allowing this seed that I've said in the past, is kind of an automatic thing inside us. And it's all about familiarity with us. So we grow up, in our families, and we look like our families, and we get all the support and love from our families. And so therefore we have a tendency to trust people that look like us, and not trust people that don't look like us. And this is, comes from, thousands and thousands of years of human survival kind of stuff, over the course of years, from hunter gathering kind of stuff, through formations of villages and tribes and so on. It's just part of it. Well, the reality is, we've now long since known the world has come together, and me personally, I've spent weeks in India and in Europe and in China and Japan and Mexico and so on, and all people look different in these different regions, and they speak different languages in these different regions. But the reality is that despite the looking different and different languages and stuff, the fundamentals are that they really are just like me. They're just in a different bag. They're in a different body. But they want respect, they want fairness, they want freedom and justice and stuff like that, just like we all do. And so the question then, and this great article that I found is, and unfortunately, again, I'm not able to put this link in, but you can watch it on the video. And actually, I think I can actually copy that and put it into the Facebook in a post. But there it is, and you can screen capture it and type it into a browser. But that's the article that we're about to look at. So here it is. Oh, come on now, where are you? Oh, there it is. Here we go. Sorry. So, America has a housing segregation problem, and Seattle may have just found the solution. Well, this is the theory behind some of this segregation and racism and lack of opportunity, and kind of like the cycle of poverty. It says here in the article that's not a new thing, that people tried to do this in the past, and Seattle currently is doing a fairly good job trying to do this now. But let me just so there's in Seattle, for example, there's and it's kind of north and south. So in the north, I don't know why this is like north and south in the country. North Seattle generally tends to be mostly white or non or basically Caucasian, and the southern areas of Seattle have a tendency to be non-white, and so the average income in the northern areas is about $53,000 a year, and in the southern areas it averages more like 24 to 30, so roughly half. Okay. So they've taken this on, and they've looked at using some at an intervention here where they strongly encourage, if you will, the cross-pollination of people. So they're encouraging people, white people, to move into black neighborhoods, and black people to work to move into white neighborhoods. And let me just Okay, so this has been going on, and so let me just read this paragraph. So, by a decade or two after the moves, there were differences, and they were profound. The students who stayed in the city, 20% dropped out of high school, and only 21% went on to college. This is the African American folks. In the suburbs, so some of them were intentionally moved into the suburbs. In the suburbs, only 5% dropped out, and 54% went to college. Kids and families sent to the suburbs were also more likely to earn higher wages and to be employed full-time once out of school. So this is a big difference here. So 20% dropout rate in the traditional black poverty-stricken neighborhoods, and only a 5% dropout rate when a same sample of the same kinds of people are in the white suburbia area, if you will, and then 21% in the African American, the poverty areas, African American areas, versus 54% going to college. This is huge. And so this article goes on, about different studies that have been done, but it basically it looks like this is a solid answer, and fundamentally, philosophically, it feels like the right direction, because again, one of the ways that we attack ignorance and allow people to understand what is possible is to integrate, or because we're going to end up sharing the information that we have. I very much so a personal story. So I remember it was many, many, many years ago, 30 years ago, and I was a young man, and I was watching a news program, and they had an African American woman in Chicago. I was living in Illinois back in the day, and I was watching this program, and this woman was really in a bad way, and she was getting assistance, government assistance, and I don't remember how much it was a month. I want to say it was like $1,500 a month or something like that, and she was explaining that wasn't, it was like a hand-to-mouth kind of thing, because she was spending all of that on this little tiny apartment that was in one of the projects, if you will, in Chicago, and the place was terrible, and the schools were terrible, and all this other stuff. And I remember thinking to myself, because my parents at that exact same time, in the little town I grew up in Grand Ridge, Illinois, they had one half of their duplex for rent, and I think at the time it was for rent for $700 a month, and 3-bedroom, 1 bath, I want to say like 1,300 square feet or something like that, but very nice accommodations, and one of the best elementary schools, not in the country, but certainly a very, very, very good elementary school, just maybe 2/10 of a mile down the road, and walking distance. And then the high school I went to was a very good high school, and that's only 8 miles away, and take a bus, from Grand Ridge to the town of Ottawa to go to this high school. And I was just thinking to myself, why are you living where you are? Why don't you leave there and live in a place like Grand Ridge, Illinois? Well, there's tradition and insecurity, because you're leaving again. What you know, and the people that this woman knew at the time, and her family and her friends and stuff, all that she knew was in this place. And so she was ignorant of the possibilities, and that's not her fault. She was just, ignorant of the possibilities and probably hesitant to leave because, of fear of the unknown. You know what you know, and you don't know what you don't know. We have a tendency to fear what we don't know. So one of the key things in the Seattle programs is to really do a great job mentoring people, explaining, educating, assisting, so that they feel very comfortable. And that was one of the major statements made about the people in the Seattle program, is that the people that are participating in this and being helped by the city of Seattle really appreciate the people that are doing the work, that are helping them, because they really feel like they're getting true assistance and a true leg up, if you will. And it's making all the difference in the world. And I just wanted to show this map just so you could see it, because this is similar to the various maps that I saw in the Civil Rights Museum in different cities around the country. So Seattle, New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, Miami, blah, 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 blah. And they all had these definite districts and areas where, certain ethnic groups would live. And so there was literally like China areas and Polish areas and Greek and African American and okay, we need to work together. And so before I close today, I just want to say this is kind of an inkling of what can be done and the importance of us spending time with each other, that time that at least initially you might feel a little bit uncomfortable with, but we really should do this because in the end we're all great people if we're afforded the opportunity to be great. So anyway, a pro and con show talking about racism and segregation. I hope it helped spark a little bit of thought and look into it some more. Okay, don't need me. You can do it yourself. All right, we're all going to be better citizens, right? Yes. I'm yes. We're all going to be better citizens. Okay. All right, until tomorrow for another 15 to 20 minutes. I'm Michael James Ott. Bye for now.